Hi all. Today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Professor David Flint and Bob Hicks from northern Queensland, and I just want to let you viewers know what us farmers are going through here in South Australia, and also I'd like to know how Professor David Flint feels when I mentioned to him what we're going through in regard to fencing off of creeks, and Bob might be able to inform us what's happening in northern Queensland in regards to fencing off of creeks. David, the biggest problem we've got, the Natural Resource Management Board here in South Australia want us to fence off our creeks, and this is not only going to cause a huge expense, but how far do they want this fence to go, you know, from the bank? And all of this is going to do is let noxious weeds, we're going to have more vermin, and because we won't be able to let our stock in to feed, and in the case of the summertime when our creeks stop flowing, they're flowing at the moment because we've had some good rain, summer rain, but normally this creek would be dry this time of the year. But we're going to have all this extra vegetation, and in the summertime it'll be all dry, and this will be a wick for a major bushfire. It'll just continue through all the properties. And also in the winter time, as we can see here, where a tree has gone over, a big gum tree's gone over this creek, and of course all this debris now is banked up, and this is causing extra flooding. And somebody coming from Bondi in Sydney, does this make sense to you?
No, it doesn't, Peter. The first thing I'd do, if I were an administrator or a politician, is I'd consult the people who would obviously know the best. And obviously the people who would know the best would be the farmers. They'd have the experience. And I'd come and ask you, and I'd ask Bob, well, should we be doing this? If somebody in the department said, let's do this, I've got this brainwave, something new to impose on the farmers, I think the first thing you do is you speak to the farmers who, as a group, obviously, have that reservoir of knowledge and experience, and they tell you what to do. And the idea that you have to somehow monitor hostile, incompetent farmers, that means they're all hostile, they're all incompetent, they're all out to destroy the environment, seems to me to proceed on the wrong basis. You obviously proceed on, you find out what their opinion is. As anything else I've ever done where I've had to chair something about which I knew very little, obviously you go to the experts. The experts are obviously, to me, the farmers.
And one big issue too is, and I've said to the Department of Natural Resource Management, why do you want to fence off our creeks? Because they want pristine water. Well, in actual fact, by pristine water, what they're saying is they don't want our stock drinking out of the creeks. Well, as you can see here, right through, the creek, the water is pristine. And they say because of animal feces going into the waterways is going to pollute the waterways. Microorganisms actually feed off animal feces. So it's part of the ecology. So this does not make sense. This is just a way now of reducing our food for our stock. We can sort of, in a situation now where once these creeks are fenced off, and we're going to fight very vigorously against this, we're going to have less food to feed our stock, and we're going to have less food to feed the people. Because in drier times, you can see it's greener around the banks of the creeks and the rivers. Bob, what have you experienced in northern Queensland?
We have something very similar, Peter, mainly through reef catchment planning, run off to the reef, stuff like a lot of it has come from that. But again, there's a mob of academics out there that are quite sure that we're doing it wrong. They forget that us farmers have been on this land for so much longer. We haven't wrecked this country yet, but it will take a few academics with a lot of power that can quite easily do it. As you were saying, down this creek, coming down this creek, now these cattle are watering all the way along where they can get in nice and easily to water. It is putting less stress on your high banks.
Of course.
The likes of where we're standing here with this big tree and this dam. This is going to cause absolutely either this section of the creek here to totally erode, or it will erode over there because this has blocked it. They need cleaning up. Your fire control, once again, along these creeks, you've levelly spread your grazing, so you have got less actual impact and compaction on your banks out there.
Exactly.
By taking it away, when your fire comes through, you will be baking that country that hard, especially with your weeds. I think you fellas got thistles and stuff like down here that will actually invade straight down the creek, and could quite easily end up with a roaring bushfire down in Adelaide, out of what they're doing up here and not thinking. And yet they still, I don't believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, but they still haven't told you actually where they want this fence. Is it from this bank? Is it from the high bank? Well, where is it?
They haven't told us that, and we're not going to go ahead with this lunacy because, you know, we're at the stage now where we're nearly net food importers. We're net food importers on seafood and fruit and vegetables, and that means we're relying on other countries to supply us with food. The more we reduce our stocking capacity, the more we're going to rely on other countries to supply us with beef and lamb. So we're not going to put up with this lunacy, and their agenda is quite obvious now. It's not about the environment. This is about reducing our food for our stock, reducing our stock numbers, and reducing a world population, because we're going to have starvation here, and it's going to be big time. And I think it's very, very sad what their agenda is about. And how many times do we see where a station's been brought up, and I think you've been a part of this, Bob, where a station's been brought up and the creeks are pristine and everything like that. They haven't actually mentioned in their paper and in their paperwork, you know, we've just turned it into a national park. They've already mentioned that it's pristine. Because why is it pristine? Because that farmer has not stuffed it up.
This is it, and you are dead right. We have been tied up in with this quite a few years ago. Now we had on our old property that has been took for a national park in Queensland. There were 54 different land types in the area. We had 32 of them on there. We had protected species on there that they thought were extinct. Since then, they have busted the dams. They have took the water away. They have wrecked the little ecosystems that were around them. Their wildfires they haven't seen one of these little animals, and I forget what they call them, since we've left. All the feral animals that were controlled when it was a running cattle property, as in the dingoes and the foxes and that, the cats, none of that has been controlled in their national park. So this all of a sudden proves that as they're bad land managers. There's no other word to put it. They are terrible land managers.
No, they certainly are. We just want to wind this up, but just quickly, and I want your view on this, David. Can you imagine when all this is fenced off, and they want our dams all fenced off? We're not going to let our native animals, or our native animals are not going to be able to come and drink freely from our creeks and our dams. And that's another disgrace. And they talk about pristine water and all the rest of it. Well, have a look what's been happening for years, hundreds of years. Native animals have been drinking out of rivers and creeks, and it hasn't polluted our waterways. What's your view on that, David? Just in conclusion.
Well, I'm still astounded that you have people telling people who've done such a successful job on conserving the land. The farmers are the real environmentalists of this country. They look after the land, they tend it. They're not going to be so stupid as to destroy what produces their income, and you can rely on them as a group to look after it. And I'd take advice from them first before I took advice from anybody else.
I think on that note, we'll conclude there, and thank you very much, David and Bob, for your input there. Thanks very much.
Thanks.